Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. It is Tuesday, October 1st, and I'm curious to see is there going to be any meaning to that at all today? Maybe, maybe not. Inquiring minds want to know. I have no idea, not a clue. But, over the last day or so, just joking around with some people, a little bit here and there. I don't know. For the last several years, I, this is just kind of my personality, kind of quirky in this way. And a lot of people don't like it. They find it offensive and negative, and just, why can't you be more positive about things? And why can't you just, you know, I don't know, just be more joyful and joyous about things. And it's just like, I am who I am. I can't explain it, okay? I'm a weird dude, all right? So I make up things in my mind about the different months, dependent upon what I see or what I believe may happen. And just because of the times that we live in, and I've done this for a while, but other than the September thing, I mean, I don't think I really made that up, and I don't think other people did either. I mean, and I'll get to that in a second because something happened with that I thought was kind of interesting when I was doing some research and reviewing some things yesterday. I was off, so I had some time to do a lot of research and listen to some things and read some things and so forth. And people had reminded me of some things that actually went down this past month as well that I had, seen early in the month, but I had forgotten about. But this is just who I am. It's just weird. Okay, well, you have September, and then instead of October, I call it OctOVER. So like instead of Ober, it's over, like O V as in Victor ER. Now, am I saying that everything ends in October, October, October? No, but from a spiritual basis, from um, a level of evil, a level of stupidity, a level of ignorance, a level of people just doing nothing but wanting to celebrate this month that is, immersed in death and violence and chaos, and they call it fun. People, it's fun to go to the Fright Castle or whatever the events are that even churches put on. It's fun to go into people's basements and be scared to death. It's fun to go to these cursed acres like they have in my area, and these fright house and fright manors. It's all fun. It's fun to be scared to death. And it's like, I guess, and it's fun to do all these things, and we never learn. We never will learn. People still, they wind up sick. They wind up ill from these things. Some people wind up dead. It doesn't happen so consistently and often, especially in the United States, that people really care or notice. But it does happen. But it doesn't get any press. So people are like, whatever. We're just going to keep doing whatever we want to do. So I call it October because, from a spiritual sense, I think October is kind of like the beginning of the end, because then you have, November, which I call Never Ember, and December, which I call Decadent Ember, okay? So for Never Ember, people get offended by that one because November's a happy time. It's supposed to be, with Thanksgiving and family and get-togethers and gatherings, and people that they travel. That's when they begin to travel, and they have all this stuff, and it's supposed to be that way. The holiday movies are released and so forth. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We go through this every single stinking year. I mean, it's just the same old thing, provided people can afford to travel, provided people can afford to buy a turkey or find a turkey, provided people can afford to have a meal, a gathering, or whatever. Because who knows by that time in this year of what I refer to as Neverember. So why would I call it Neverember instead of November? I'm just being funny, facetious, offensive maybe, because I know it makes people mad, but I'm not trying to make people bad. I'm just trying to be weird, goofy, different. It's just who I am. People might take offense to it, but I'm really not trying to be offensive. I really am not. I'm just being weird, okay? But Decadent Ember, that one I do call it that because it never ever fails. And I'm going to prove it to y'all in a minute. It never ever fails. It doesn't matter how poor people are or claim to be or whatever else. They will always find a way, as long as that plastic works, as long as that card works, you know, they will always find a way to buy whatever they want, go wherever they want, travel wherever they want, do whatever they want. I'm talking about on a mass scale, not people with a brain, but I'm talking about people with that just don't care about being in debt, couldn't give a rip. They think credit cards are money. So they'll just spend, 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 max, max, max. Don't want to disappoint the kids, don't want to disappoint this, don't want to disappoint that. So they'll buy, 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 spend, spend, spend until they max out their cards. It happens every single year, and I don't think it'll stop this year unless something makes it stop. I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. But if it doesn't, say for instance it doesn't, people will do the exact same thing that they have always done. They never learn. They get in further debt. Then they cry, moan, bitch, and complain. Sorry about the language, but I'm just telling you, it's true. Come January, I'm in so much debt. I can't afford to live. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't pay off these cars. Blah, 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 blah. But I discovered something yesterday that I didn't know about. This is pretty interesting. I learned a few things. And somebody left me a comment, which I thought was interesting. They left a comment on, I don't know, a YouTube short that was uploaded. I can't remember exactly what they left the comment on. But they said something about, I really thought that this was going to be the September. And at first I immediately just, liked their comments. Like, yeah, well, whatever. Well, life goes on. I don't know what to say. I'm not a prophet or anything, I just tell people what I saw years ago and what I thought it had to deal with the economy. I thought it had to deal with. That's what I assumed. I shouldn't use that word, but that's what I believed. I'll just stick with that. That it had to do with that. But then as I was liking the comment, the thought occurred to me. I'm like, or did it? Or was it? Was this a September? People say, well, no, 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 because we didn't have a market crash. Everything's still fine. People are still getting paid. They're still going to the grocery store. They're still buying what they want, what they need. No, no, no. You can't go back and say that it was a September. September. Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to argue that. If you look at it from an economic standpoint, I will agree with you. But if you look at it from a societal standpoint, well, let's look at September, okay? Started out with the whole 9/10 incident, okay? That continues on. Like I said, it drags on and on and on. People still going down that rabbit hole. I saw a video yesterday from Peggy Hall, the Healthy American. People are still going down the rabbit hole. They're still doing this. They're still doing that. Whatever. You go down the rabbit hole to your heart's content, okay? But that pretty much got everybody's attention. That was a major thing that really got everybody's attention. It could not be ignored. It was not ignored. It was thrown right in our face. And then they had the memorial and this and that, and on and on and on it went, right? That was one of the main things, okay? But then there was something that was first came out by, presented by Paul from Off Grid Desert Farming. And then my friend sent it to me yesterday. I think it was yesterday morning, maybe the day before. I think it was yesterday morning. Yeah, I think it was. And I remember seeing it earlier in the month. It might have been before the 9/10 thing. I think it was. I'm not exactly sure. Where there was this truck driver sitting at a port, a dock, I guess, in Mobile, Alabama, talking about how there's nothing to load on his truck, that this is the time of the year that they're expecting to get some overtime, have big hauls to bring everything into the stores, all the holiday garbage, starting from Halloween all the way through to the end of the year, and this is the time to be that they expect to be the most lucrative time of the year. And that's not the case, at least for this particular driver that did his video sitting at the dock, but they told him he couldn't take any footage of the dock or anything. But he mentioned, that his truck got loaded in like 15 minutes. And I told people in my video that I uploaded on called September 16th, 2025, that I used to load trucks, with my son, and it did not take 15 minutes. It took hours. This was years ago, but it was also around the September time frame, where all the holiday stuff would come in, and it would take hours to load and offload trucks, not minutes, hours. We would do like 2 a day because that's how long it would take. Maybe 3, depending upon the size of the truck. But it took a long, long time to offload trucks for distribution centers, for people to buy things, or for them to get distributed to other stores, whether it was like Walmart, Costco, or wherever else they're going to sell this stuff, or to load them up for UPS and FedEx or whatever to be shipped out. But it would take a long, long time, not minutes, hours. So that really got my attention, where I'm listening to this man basically spill his guts and tell everybody what he was observing at the dock that he was at in Mobile, Alabama. And I said, Paul from Off Grid Desert Farming, he was the first to put it out that I was aware of. And then I rewatched it, and I think I shared it again on my Substack. Most of the stuff that's very controversial, offensive, has language in it that's unedited, uncensored, I'll put on the Substack. And, I don't really want to do that because I don't want to promote foul language and things of this nature, but this is the world we live in. People cannot speak without cussing up a storm. They just can't do it. They can't do it without dropping F-bombs. They can't do it without using colorful metaphors. They don't have the vocabulary. And they're angry and they're frustrated. So they don't know how to express themselves without swearing, without cussing. And if you want to present information that people need to know about, it's kind of the way it has to be, even though I don't really like it. It just is what it is. This is the way people express themselves, and this is how they share information. So people are offended by that. I don't know what to tell you. Don't watch, but then again, you won't ever get the information either, most likely. I mean, you can, from like Michael Snyder Substacks and people that write articles that don't have a lot of that stuff, or certain videos of information that people may not swear. I try not to as much as I can help it, and other people, but it's difficult. It really is difficult. You just gotta have to suck it up and deal with it if you want the information. For the most part, it's just the society and the world we live in. We are in a decay of morality, moral decay, like I've never witnessed before in my life. It's just like there is nothing sacred anymore. There is nothing family oriented anymore for the most part. It just doesn't exist. So you're just gonna come across this. There's no way around it, right? Anyway, so this guy, he's talking about what he's witnessing and observing, and for the most part, he's not swearing too much, but a few times he does, But what he's really explaining is like, listen, what is going on here? If we're doing so great and if the economy's so wonderful and everything, then why don't I have a truck full of supplies, holiday stuff to distribute? What's going on? And then he talks about how, with the holidays coming up, he said, all you're going to get out of me is Merry Christmas. Don't expect anything from me. Don't expect me to buy you anything, give you anything, gift card, whatever else. You're just going to get a Merry Christmas out of me, and he's frustrated because people tell him, oh, you're just stressed out. You need a vacation. He goes, well, how am I going to take a vacation when I don't have any money? How am I going to do anything when I don't have any money? Things cost, it just costs. Even if you do a staycation, you got to eat, eventually, I mean, it's like everything costs. He's like, so don't tell me I need a vacation and this and that, and he swears and so whatnot. But the bottom line is, he's trying to explain to people the best he can what he's observing and witnessing. And that video came out, like I said, earlier in September, before maybe the 9/10 incident or whatever. I don't recall exactly, around the same time frame, I think. And so as the month went on, okay, we started to see some weird stuff. Like I said, the 9/10 incident pretty much took up the whole rest of the month, okay? The just all of that, all right, was just like front page news, could not be ignored, thrown in our face. The memorial, the this, the that, the rabbit hole, the investigation, if you want to call it that. Most of the people are like, citizen journalists investigating, doing the job that the FBI and the law enforcement should do, but all they want to do is lie, and that the government should do, but all they want to do is lie. So people want the truth, they investigate themselves, and they do the work themselves, so they can get the truth out there, right? Well, then, okay, so from a societal aspect, all right, that's a pretty huge deal, right? And then from an economic aspect, listening to that truck driver, give his testimonial, I guess you could say, what he's observing, thinking, okay, that's interesting as well. Then as you go further into September, what's the deal with the gold statue of the dumpster holding up the Bitcoin? I mean, all these statues just start showing up. This idol worship. It started with the 9/10 thing. I know if that offends people. Sorry, it's idol worship. Whether you believe me, don't believe me, look at it yourself. It's idol worship, okay? Everybody wants something they can put, like I said in my last video, their faith behind. They need a martyr. They need something. They need somebody that they can put on a pedestal, that they can look at, something they can look at, whether it's the dumpster holding up the Bitcoin with that gold statue, or that gay thing with the dumpster and Epstein holding hands that somebody put up, apparently, I don't know how, but whatever, where it looked like they were, tiptoeing through the tulips. They just look like a couple of homos holding hands. I don't know, man. Weird stuff, man. But this stuff is put up, and I'm thinking to myself, this is weird, man. This is just weird. So we got our idol worship like we always do, and so as we continue on through September, okay, then you have the of course, the fake rapture thing, okay? And there's still fallout and aftermath from that, and there's still people, I had to block people. I can't do it anymore. Sorry. If you're blocked, sorry, not sorry. I told you. I don't want this crap. I don't want to read it. I don't want you sending it to me. I told you. I warned you. It's just like, and you kept doing it. Stop trying to recruit me to stupidity. Okay? I can't deal with it anymore. I get tons of emails, tons of messages, tons of this. I said, I'm not going to deal with the stupid. All right? I'm not going to do it. There is not going to be a rapture on October 6th or 7th, just like there wasn't on the 23rd and 24th. And like I told people in my last video, if you're offended by it, sorry, it is what it is. There's a lot of truth to that. We all have the freedom to be dumb. Okay? People can still they can fall for every staged event they want to. They can fall for every single chaotic thing that comes down the pipe. They can fall for whatever rapture date people want to put out there. They can listen to the false prophets, the false teachers. They can fall for every single trap they want to. I'm not going to. I've got a brain. I'm going to use it. I thank God for my functioning brain, and it would be an insult and a slap to his face not to use that brain that he gave me. There's logic, there's common sense, but most importantly, there's the Word, there's the Bible, and there's no excuse for people to be biblically ignorant, and there's no excuse for people to be just foolish with their life choices and the things that the people they choose to follow and listen to. If that offends you, don't listen to me. I don't force anybody to listen to me. Don't listen to me if you're offended by that. I don't care. But don't expect me to read your stupid email. Got to see this video. They make a good point. No, they don't. They're biblically ignorant. They don't understand the word. They don't understand Jesus' teaching. They don't understand the gospels. They're biblically ignorant. And that's why they will fall for every single thing that comes down the pipe. It doesn't matter if it's October 6th or 7th. It doesn't matter if it's some other fool that says that it's going to happen this month or that month or this month or that month or by the end of the year or on Krampus Day or on Halloween or on Thanksgiving or on this day or on that day. People can listen to whatever the garbage they want to listen to, okay? But it's garbage. And people can choose to be biblically ignorant, just like we all have the freedom to be dumb, okay? If that offends, turn me off. Shut me down. Don't listen to me. I really don't care, because lives and souls are at stake. They continue to be at stake, and people still follow stupidity. And they still, buy into all of this garbage. Just like the September 23rd, 24th thing. There's still a major aftermath effect, negative effect from that. And I've seen a lot of videos and people crying and whining and moaning and complaining, They gave this up, they gave that up, they're trying to get it back. They sold this, they sold that, they lost their jobs, they quit, they cussed their bosses out. Here's the thing about that. This is the thing that really kind of blows me away about is the not only it's the arrogance and the stupidity, but not only the arrogance and the stupidity, but are you really a Christian? Are you really a believer in Jesus Christ? If you're so arrogant and stupid to think that you were getting out of here in the 23rd or 24th, or now the 6th or the 7th or whatever, that you go in, excuse me, and cuss your boss out, or go in and treat people like garbage and people like crap because you think you're getting out of here. I'm thinking to myself, this is how biblically ignorant and stupid people are. Do you really think Jesus would rapture you up when you're treating people, whether there are fellow believers in Christ or, someone that doesn't, when you're treating them like garbage? Do you think, if those were the last things that you did, then why would God take you up to his heaven? I mean, think about that for a second, And that's how people acted. That's what they did. They got cocky. They got arrogant. They got foolish. And they started to treat people like garbage. Wouldn't you think that they would want to evangelize? Wouldn't you think that they would want to present the gospel? Wouldn't you think they would want to, try to lead people to Jesus in their final days or minutes? No, that's not what happened. Look at the videos. The TikTok seems to be the go-to channel of everything, and that's where everybody was putting all their garbage up and whining and crying and moaning and complaining and this and that. But none of them, that I could see anyway, were contrite for the most part. None of them were humble. They were arrogant. They were cocky. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. I'm selling this. I'm selling that. I'm giving that away. I'm doing this. Da 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 da. And then when they realized it didn't happen, then they were like, please give me my stuff back. Can I have my stuff back? Please, please. Can I buy that back from you? Please. I really need my car. I really need my house. It's pathetic. We were like, where's your sympathy? Why aren't you sympathetic? Because it's useless. People have got to get smart. They've got to get smarter. But if they want to fall for everything that keeps coming down the pipe, and this is what September is about. Morally, in society, in a societal manner, we decayed to an all-time low in September, in my opinion. Okay, so then you had the fake rapture garbage, right? Now, and then that's more toward the end of the month, okay? But then there's a lot of things I missed. But then yesterday, this I found very, very interesting. There were 3 things that I discovered yesterday. And I shared this all to the Substack because, like I said, way too much language, with the TikTok videos and people, whining and complaining and, expressing their views and everything else. But I found 3 things that I thought were very interesting. One is apparently SNAP and EBT is being canceled for certain families, people in certain areas. I don't think it's a nationwide thing. I don't know about that. But some people are finding out the real hard way, like when they get up to the register and they think that there's something on their card, loaded on their card, and they weren't dumb. They checked their account to make sure that it was on their card. But when they get up to the register, all of a sudden, or the register, It's all of a sudden it's gone. It's gone. So they're trying to check out on their EBT card, their SNAP or EBT or whatever, and there's nothing on the card. And then other people are getting letters in the mail. I said you have to research it yourself. I can't even remember the name of the channels now that put this stuff out. But you could hear all the people on there. Like I said, TikTok seems to be the thing that everybody TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. Anyway, like a clock ticking down, or maybe something about to go off. But anyway, this is where everybody is doing all of their I don't know, their getting their 15 minutes of fame, I guess, is doing their TikTok videos or what have you, and that's where people are expressing what's going on in their lives or whatever, and that's where you see a lot of this stuff, and then people compile these videos and, on their YouTube channels or whatever, and you hear these people talking about what happened. I lost my SNAP EBT. I got this letter in the mail saying that I no longer qualify. I got this letter in the mail saying that, I just, I even owe money back. I thought that was interesting, that they I guess they abuse the system to the point where they owe money back, or they're in the register, they're in the line about to check out, and now there's nothing on their card. And and then you get the entitled people that spend $85 on their nails, that are also on SNAP EBT. Somehow they are able to scrounge up, enough money to get a new tattoo, or to get their nails done for God knows how much money. $85, this one entitled woman, and then people, saying, well, you can get your nails done for $85, but you're on EBT. And they're like, well, that's none of your business, B, kind of thing, all up in people's faces, just arrogant and cocky about it, and it's just like, well, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to use that money for food? I mean, it's like, how is it that you need EBT for food, but you can afford to get your nails done for $85, or you can afford that new tattoo that costs $300 or whatever more it is? It's insanity. But this is what people prioritize. Got to get my nails done for my big date, and I'm not trying to make fun of any ethnicity, but let's be real here. Check out the TikTok videos, okay? I'm not being racist, but check out the TikTok videos. That's all I can say. I got to get my nails done. I got my date with my baby daddy, whoever, I'm just saying, okay? But there were Asian chicks, and there were Latina women, and as well as all kinds, bragging about how beautiful their hair looks and how beautiful their nails look, but they got their SNAP EBT, and the government's saying we're shutting it down now, we're cutting it off. But it gets worse, because like I said, they're not only cutting it off, they want their money back, because a lot of people have been defrauding the government, and now they've been caught. Like I learned about something I didn't know about called the Payment Protection Plan. I didn't know about this. But apparently during the scamdemic, the plandemic kind of thing, well, people were getting money, like a lot of people did, okay, because they weren't working or whatever. And if they would have been using the money the way that they were supposed to be using the money, I think everything would have been okay. But that's not what people did. They tried to defraud the government. And what they did was they set up dummy companies and said that they had more, employees than they actually did. And they basically lied. They lied on their applications. They lied, and they're defrauding the government. And now they're getting letters in the mail saying you owe us thousands of dollars. Some people like $20,000 or more, okay? Or you're going to prison. You're going to do federal prison time. You don't have to believe me. Look it up for yourself. It's all on my Substack, and people can do their own research. The Payment Protection Plan, that's what it was set up for, is for people that couldn't work during the pandemic. But they decided to defraud the government. And some of these fools went and bought Lamborghinis. I'm not joking. Ferraris, bling, all kinds of stuff that they didn't need, because they thought that they could pull the wool over the government's eyes. Well, the government may be corrupt, but it's not stupid, and it's going to get its money back. It's going to get its money back somehow, some way. So all these people that were living high on the hog, defrauding the government, and, and spending money that they didn't have, that they didn't earn, and basically stealing is what they were doing. Now payday has come, and they want the government back. And when are these reports coming out? And when is this happening? In September. Because today is only October 1st, right? Okay. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is really interesting. And then there's a Michael Snyder article that came out. Matter of fact, I congratulated my son when I saw him and shook his hand. And I said, congratulations, because you're one of the few, the proud. He's like, what are you talking about, Dad? You're crazy. No. I said, because you're one of the 48% under 30 that has a full-time job. Because that's how bad it is in our economy now. Look it up for yourself. 48%. Only 48% of young people under 30 have a full-time job now. So like my son, my daughter, hopefully your sons and daughters, your grandkids, or whatever else. But only 48% of people under the age of 30 have a full-time job now. That's sad, man, in America. 48%. That's it. That's how bad the unemployment rate is. Of course, they lie and they say everything's fine and wonderful. But that's not the case. Only 48%. And we know how the prices keep going up on everything from groceries to rent. And, so much for the mortgage rates. If you look at the latest reports, people might have been able to get in for like 1 or 2 weeks under a lower mortgage rate. But now it's going to skyrocket again. Now it's going to go way up. And what's happening today to the Dow? Not a big deal, really. It's only 200 points down, Not a big deal when it's 46, 47,000, whatever it is. Okay, who really cares? But the interesting thing is there's an article saying that most of the time the Dow, the market, doesn't really care about a government shutdown. But this time might be different. Because what happened on September 30th? The government shut down. Are they gonna come up with a plan, a budget, or whatever else to bring it back up? Yeah, probably. They always do. It might take a few days. It might even be by the end of today. Who knows? But what if it stays shut down for a while? Maybe the market cares this time. Right now it's about negative 200. No big deal. But you listen to Greg Manarino, and he said technically the Dow is really, if they're not lying to us, it's at about 8,000. Matter of fact, I was listening to, I just shared it to the Substack as well. Actually, I shared this one to the YouTube channel too. I just shared the link to the YouTube channel because it was put on Substack. But anyway, he was in an interview with a couple of dudes, do this podcast or whatever. And he said, yeah, not only should the Dow be at about 8,000, okay, but it's so bad, that gold and silver could possibly surpass the Dow, okay? So gold and silver is skyrocketing. The dollar is falling. Okay. The market, maybe it cares, maybe it doesn't care. Okay. But all of this is still happened in September because today is only October 1st. So when I look at all this and I think to myself, wow, maybe it was a September, but it just wasn't so obvious. I said, I saw a tree fall in the forest that didn't get chopped down, this huge tree, and I heard the word timber. That's what I heard years ago, for September, and I saw it, and I just automatically believed it was the economy. But maybe it kind of is, but what if it's societal crashing? The crashing of society, the crashing of morality, the crashing of, people that have been defrauding, and people that have been taking the easy way out and have been, lying, not only on the Lord, like the false prophets and false teachers and everything with the fake rapture and all the rest of this garbage, but what if it's also the people that have been lying about their finances and now they've been caught? Now that to me sounds like a September. And if that is the catalyst for OctOVER, then what do you think is going to happen this month of OctOVER and beyond? It's a fair question. What do you think? You think it's going to get better or worse or stay the same? I tell you what I think. I go back to what my friend sent me last night actually, and it was very interesting to me because it was very timely, and it's a message by Ben Faircloth, and I reshared it. And it's called The Iron Fist States of America that he put on 11/27/24. And he warned people almost a year ago, now, closer to a year ago now, that on 11/27/24, the Iron Fist States of America. Hmm, isn't that interesting? Actually, the title of the message was the Stasi States of America, referring to Germany and Hitler and whatnot. Isn't that interesting? What did Keg's breath and the dumpster just do to the generals and admirals yesterday? I watched as much of it as I could. I watched Keg's breath speech, and then I caught a few clips from the dumpster speech because the whole thing was just way too long. I felt so bad for those generals and admirals sitting there through this garbage. Some of them already resigned, if you want to look it up. Some of them are going to retire. Some of them are like, we're not dealing with this crap. We're not putting up with this. Because they basically sat there and were insulted. They flew all over the planet, to get to Quantico to be insulted, which I knew was going to happen because nobody's got respect for Keg's breath. Because how do you have respect for a functioning alcoholic, who is a Kabbalist, who basically came from the faux news couch, that is now the Secretary of War, that's basically couldn't hold the jock of most of these generals and admirals. I'm just going to tell it like it is. People like it, don't like it, whatever, and they and he's the one that they're supposed to listen to. I mean, come on, man. There comes a point in time where the stupidity and the ridiculousness comes to just such a high level that you just you can't take any of it seriously, because these are the people supposedly in charge. These are generals and admirals, wartime generals and admirals, people that are leading their troops, leading their fleets and whatever else. And they're basically being lectured by Eddie Haskell. Okay? It gets to a point, and they get insulted by their commander in clown, commander in chief, whatever, basically tongue in cheek insults, but insulted, saying, well, if you want to keep your job, you're going to sit here and listen. You can't get up and leave, even though you can get up and leave, but you can't get up and leave if you want to keep your job. And then what did the dumpster do before? When he's being interviewed, getting in and off Marine One or whatever. If I don't like them, if I don't like what they say, I'm just going to go ahead and fire them. See, this is the arrogance, and this is the stupidity, and this is the ridiculousness that our nation has become, and our military, and I just think to myself, I knew it was going to be a fiasco. It's unprecedented. You don't call people in from all over the world where you do a TED talk, where you could do it on, online. Hey, you already did it before with the Signal chat, where you released information and, and you don't care about operational security, obviously. Should have stepped down then and resigned then, Keg's breath. But no, you're not a man of honor and integrity, so you're not going to do that, But what you will do is lecture the generals and the admirals on how they need to do things and how we're going to be at grooming and readiness standards, and we're going to have this and we're going to have that. And from an outsider looking in, it'd be like, oh, yeah, these are great things. We need to have our military more ready, and they need to have grooming standards, and they need to have this, and they need to have that. Yeah, but look at the whole reasoning behind it. It's basically flexing your muscles and telling these generals and admirals, you're going to play ball. You're going to play ball the way we want you to play ball and how we tell you to play ball, or you can hit the road, Jack. And we don't care about, they even said it, we thank you for your service. If you can't fall in line with what we want and how and what we're setting up here, and what our program is, we thank you for your service, but you're welcome to retire or resign. How unbelievably insulting to a man or woman or whatever that gave 30, 40, 50 years of their life to service to this country, and did it in an honorable way, in an integral way. It's disgusting. And that happened again in September, right on the final day. I thought it was going to be today. I was wrong. It was yesterday. I thought it was today. I don't know why I thought it was today, but I guess I got it confused with something else. But it was yesterday on September 30th. Isn't that interesting? So will September be the catalyst for everything for the rest of this year? I don't know. Time will tell. But check out the message from Ben Fairclough, because I thought it was really interesting, because on Monday night, Eric Hale talked about the exact same thing that Ben Fairclough did from Jeremiah 12. That message, the Iron Fist States of America, came from Jeremiah 12. And Eric talked about some of the same things about how can you run with the horses if you can't keep up with the footmen. When people are saying, hey, you know, Lord, why is it that the evil still prospers? Well, because the evil's going to continue to prosper, because one, nobody does anything to stop it. Okay, I have to agree with Greg Manarino on that. Nobody says a darn thing. Nobody does anything to stop it at all. People don't rise up. They don't get together. They're not on the same page. They don't work together. Everybody kind of is a man or a woman to themselves. No man is a woman, or man or woman is an island. But that's how people respond or react to things, because they don't get together. They don't support each other. They don't try to help each other. They don't do anything to stop anything. They just basically accept everything as a nation, as a people, as a country. We don't care that the National Guard comes into our cities. We don't care that we get invaded. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. Just give us our football games, baseball games, basketball games, hockey games. Give us our entertainment, and leave us alone. And we don't care. So that's why our cities get invaded. That's why they get overrun. It's not because of the immigration issue and everything. Sure, that's a part of it, but they're taking care of that with the alligator Alcatraz and the what is it, the Speedway Slammer and all the rest of this stuff. No, it's not that. It's not that the crime is so high or whatever else. No, no, it's that the people have the freedom to be dumb, and they're exercising that freedom. And they are allowing these things to happen because they don't stand. They don't stand for God. They don't stand for their families. They don't stand for each other. They don't stand for anything. The people don't stand. So when a nation doesn't stand, it collapses. That's why they're talking about, putting up the Albert Pike statue again on Charlie Kirk Day, which is also kind of George Floyd Day, because they were both born on the same day. Isn't that interesting? So when Charlie Kirk Day comes on October 4th or October 14th or whatever, they're talking about putting up the Albert Pike statue again. And they're talking about, and then I think that's a 3-day weekend, Columbus Day or whatever. Watch out for that. That's all I'm going to say. It could get it very interesting, because I think that's around the same time frame. All that's around the same time frame, mid-October, OctOVER, So, and if they put up the Albert Pike statue, well, who's Albert Pike? Well, only the father of modern day Freemasonry. Oh, isn't that interesting? Civil War, Confederate Civil War general, the author of Morals and Dogma, basically the Freemason handbook, no big deal, right? But we'll put up that statue of that general, but take down all the other statues, that people wanted to take down years ago that haven't been erected again, which I'm fine with. There shouldn't be statues anyway. But the fact that they want to make that one a big deal, and people are like, dum de dum de dum, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And that's why people will fall for every single thing, every single staged event, every single fake prophecy, fake rapture, fake garbage, fake this, fake that. They will fall for it every single time, hook, line, and sinker, because we all have the freedom to be dumb. It's a choice. And people choose to be dumb. They choose to be biblically ignorant. They choose it. So do not be surprised if September, if it really was a September, okay, that September to remember or whatever. Okay, they say December to remember, but what if it was that September to remember, and we look back and this is the catalyst for the rest of this year? Don't be surprised. And I don't know, but all I know is from my own research and everything I've seen from the beginning of the month to the end of the month and all the stuff that happened in September, it makes me wonder if it's more of a societal and a moral decay than it is a financial collapsing. Even though it does look like we may be on the verge of that, depending upon how long the government shutdown happens, how or goes on for, and how long and how it affects the markets, as well as people's jobs, because people are still getting laid off, prices are still rising, and like I just told you, read the article for yourself, the Michael Snyder article for yourself. 48%, that's it. 48% of young people under 30 have a full-time job. I don't know what the stats are for people over 30 or whatever. That's just what I saw. I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, no wonder these young people are struggling. No wonder they are having a hard time, a difficult time. But then a lot of them are making bad choices too. They're doing foolish things, and they're engaging in stupidity and foolish things as well. Like I said, we all have the freedom to be dumb. We also have the freedom to be smart. But people don't seem to want to exercise that freedom. They'd rather exercise the freedom to be dumb, because that's what it looks like is happening all around society, all around our society, all around this country. People just get dumber and dumber and dumber. So, anyway, I think that's about it. I think I shared everything I wanted to share. I think I said everything I wanted to say. So, I think I'm going to title this OctOVER. I'm going to put myself out there on a limb. I'm going to call it OctOVER. And like I said, if that offends people, not necessarily trying to offend people, I'm more trying to wake people up. But it appears the way that people wake up is not sugarcoating things and and stroking their ego, and telling them how wonderful and great and beautiful and awesome and smart they are. It's by basically saying, put your head out, okay? And unless you want to be suffering unnecessarily and needlessly because of your own poor decision making and our own poor decision making as a country, pull your head out, okay? Because September should have been a an example of what's to come, and hopefully people will learn from it. Hopefully they won't fall for the same trap in OctOVER, you know, and they'll get smarter. I hope, I pray, but ultimately, people don't want God. They don't want Jesus. They want the God Jesus they want, and then they can't understand, why is this church getting shot up? Why is that church getting shot up? Why is this happening? Why is this shooting? Why this? Why that? Why can't we do fun things? Why can't we go here? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that without getting shot and getting hurt and this and that? And why did all these houses just get washed off the North Carolina coastline? And because the foolish man builds his house upon the sand. That's why. Remember that Sunday school song? I know, it's insulting, it's offensive. But the wise man builds his house upon the rock, and the foolish man builds his house upon the sand. That's why. How many times have people been warned to get off the coastlines? How many times? How many years? But nope, people still want to have their houses on the sand. I'm sorry. Is that offensive? Does that hurt people's feelings? I'm sorry. You got to recognize the times we live in. This is no joke. This is no game. Okay? More disasters are coming. More chaos, more violence, more insanity. You want to build your house upon the sand? Build your house upon the sand. Don't be surprised when the rains come down, the floods go up. The rains come down and the floods go up, and your house on the sand goes splat. Okay? I mean, I know, I'm a jerk. I'm an idiot. I get it. But at the same time, build your house upon the rock. If you build your house upon the rock, then your house will not go splat. All right? I know. I'm a jerk. I get it. All right. Y'all have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.